Okay, so in this part of the tutorial series, we're going to look at throwing and catching exceptions with PDO. Now we're going to need to do a little bit of prep work before we start to, or before we enable methods to throw exceptions. But first of all, let's take a look at what happens if something goes wrong. So, for example, at the moment, if we are querying, this is from the last part of the tutorial series, by the way, the last video. If we are passing in this search parameter, binding it to this value here, what happens if, for example, we cut off the S from the articles table? If I hit enter, you'll see that we get an empty result set. Now this is fine because we can check the number of rows that have been affected, which obviously in this case will be 0, and then we can output a warning. However, if we are, for example, debugging, or if we want more specific error messaging, we might want to go ahead and throw exceptions. So in this case, we want to go ahead and set the level of reporting using the set attribute method from the PDO class. So we're not using the PDO statement class this time, or the object, we're using the PDO object. So we've got this set into, stored in DB. So I'm going to use the set attribute method. And in here we have different, different attributes that we can pass through, obviously, setting attributes. So the one that we're going to be setting is PDO error mode, or ERR mode. And we're going to be setting this to throw exceptions, basically. So we say PDR error mode exception. So what's going to happen here is when everything goes right, nothing's going to happen. However, if we do take off this S like we did just a moment ago and we hit enter, we've got the typical uncaught exception, because one of let's see what's so execute has thrown an exception because we're trying to execute a query that has failed, because we have selected from article instead of from articles. So what do? Well, obviously we need a try and catch block. So here I'm going to say try and then catch. Now we can catch a PDO exception as well. We can use the PDO exception object, and we can name that exception E, and we can do exactly what we need from it, but what we need with it. But for now, I'm just going to say arg. Okay, so we have tried this block of code. We have caught a specific exception. In this case, this line here is going to throw the exception. So we're just going to die and say arg. So there we go. We've just killed the script, and there we go. So this might be useful to you. You might want to, redirect someone to a different page, or, log an error and then redirect, or something like that. But in this case, we might want to retrieve some specifics about the error. So we can just use the get message method that we have in a normal exception like this. But this time it's a PDO exception, because we've thrown a specific type of exception. And sorry, we need to die that. There. Okay, so it says base table or view not found, gives us a generic SQL error code and then a specific SQL error code to MySQL. And then it says table website.article does not exist. That's obviously because we've taken the S off, but we already knew that. So if something does fail, you can go ahead and use a try catch block, the PDO exception object, after you've set these specific attributes to make these methods throw exceptions. So that's it really. That's a very basic level of error reporting from this sort of side of things. There is an additional way you can error report as well, which is not less effective but just slightly different, and that's using the error info method from the PDO statement class. So let's go ahead and just get rid of this try catch block, and let's get rid of that, and also let's get rid of this level of error reporting and hit enter. So everything's working fine. What we can now do is we can say here query, which houses our PDO or has our PDO statement object, and we can say error info. So if we go ahead and just mess this up again, so remove the S on articles and hit enter. Oops, sorry, need to just go ahead and print this out. So print R. And we'll just pop that between some pre-formatted tags. And again, we'll pass true here. Okay, so when I hit enter now, you can see that we're returned with an array. Now, I've just already mentioned that we have this sort of generic standards error code, and then we have this specific to the driver that we're currently using, which is MySQL. So this will be the generic MySQL, the specific MySQL error code for this error, the table not existing, and then it gives us the string here. So we can also use this in a different way if we want. So we could, for example, detect if any errors have occurred, or maybe if there are no results returned, we might want to echo out the specific error. And obviously we can go ahead and we can access the third element, the third element along, which is index 2, and this will be the specific error. Or we can take the error code, log it, things like that. So that is basic error reporting with PDO. We've looked at the try-catch method by setting the attributes for these methods to throw exceptions, and then we've looked at this error info method, which comes from the PDO statement object.